Tigray is Ethiopia's northernmost state, sharing borders with the Afar region to the east, Eritrea to the north, the Sudan to the west, and the Amhara state to the south. For many Ethiopians, the name Tigray evinces a dazzling history that goes as far back as the time of King Solomon and Queen Sheba. For others, it is a place of the devout and religious. Yet for many others, it evokes memories of the unmatched bravery and sacrifice paid to defend the country's freedom and independence. Truly, Tigray is the alpha and omega of Ethiopia's ancient and remarkable history, as evidenced today by its unique pre-Christian obelisks, countless stone inscriptions, dozens of rock-hewn churches, monasteries, underground palaces and imperial tombs. Tigray was once the country's architectural workshop. It has always been the purveyor of religious scholarship. Ecclesiastical paintings, Christian hymns, as well as a source of administrative and political systems and thought. Indeed, Tigray's historical, religious and cultural wealth is as overwhelmingly rich as it is diverse. In addition to the Tigrinya-speaking Ethiopians, Tigray is also home to two minority Ethiopian nationalities, namely Irob and Kunama, who live in the northeastern and northwestern parts of the region respectively. It all began in Aksum. Some 3,000 years ago, Queen Sheba ruled the region from its capital, Aksum. This ruined palace, locally known as Dengur, was the very site of her imperial residence.
I was very surprised to see the palace here and to hear about the history. I read something in Germany about the history. It's a great impression to see that the culture was very, very high in this area of Africa long years ago now, centuries ago. I was very surprised.
One can also see the Queen's Bath, Mai Shum, at the northeastern tip of the city. Aksum is a city whose numerous mysteries remain largely undeciphered. One of its best-kept secrets is the presence of the lost original Ark of the Covenant of God, which is believed to contain the stone tablets on which God inscribed the Ten Commandments. The Ark was brought to Aksum from Jerusalem after the visit to the Holy City by Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and Queen Sheba. Ever since then, the holy object has been safely kept here. This makes Aksum one of the most sacred cities on earth.
This was representation, Menelik I, son of Solomon and the son of Queen of Sheba. This was the son of priest Sadok, priest Azarias, who was carrying the original Ark of the Covenant.
As the epicenter of the Aksumite civilization, Aksum was famous for its economic prosperity, architectural ingenuity and cultural vibrancy. Arguably, the obelisks at the ancient city of Aksum are the best-known legacies of this great civilization. Beneath these obelisks are found royal tombs, and what is certain is that these obelisks have no comparison anywhere in the world, being the largest single stones erected anywhere. The largest and heaviest of all is the fallen obelisk. Decorated on all of its four sides, this 13-story obelisk is 33 meters high and 4 meters wide. Its estimated weight exceeds 500 tons.
Aksum is the first kingdom of Ethiopia, first civilization. So I think, looking at this, you get the feeling that yes, it was a very powerful civilization.
With 11 stories, the second largest obelisk is 26 meters high. It is decorated on four sides too. Looted by fascist Italy in 1937, it was taken to Rome in 3 pieces. It took 7 decades before Italy finally gave in to the intense diplomatic and popular pressure from Ethiopia and friends of Ethiopia to return the stolen obelisk to its rightful owners. This is the third largest and still standing obelisk. This 10-story obelisk has remained in the same place and position ever since its erection, though its apparent tilting has caused a lot of concern among Ethiopians in recent years. These unique and magnificent obelisks represent Aksum's technological superiority. Even today, no one knows how these massive monolithic edifices were quarried, transported or erected.
I'm surprised that I didn't know more about this place before I came here, really, because it has some incredible sights. It's very different. It's like nothing I've ever really seen before. So to me, it's very interesting, and the amount of archaeological information, particularly in the museum, is very interesting as well. It seems that it's a very early period of time.
Ethiopia's Christian capital. Built in the 4th century AD, the original church of St. Mary of Zion at Aksum was the first church in sub-Saharan Africa and perhaps one of the earliest and most revered churches in the world. The most recent church was built in 1965 by Emperor Haile Selassie and was inaugurated in the presence of Queen Elizabeth II of England. The city of Aksum serves as a base for visiting a number of historical and religious sites, including those in and around Yeha and Adwa. One of Tigray's unique edifices of great historical, archaeological and architectural significance is the temple at Yeha. About 60 kilometers east of Aksum, the temple at Yeha is thought to have been built in the 8th century before the birth of Christ. Standing for more than 2.5 millennia, it is the oldest building in sub-Saharan Africa. It is a magnificent structure, remarkable for, among other things, its structural strength, geometrical perfection and architectural beauty. Yeha was the center of the Da'amat kingdom that existed before Aksum. After the advent of Christianity, Abuna Atsi, one of the 9 saints who did much to spread Christianity in Ethiopia, built his monastery here next to the ancient temple. Over the centuries, Yeha has attracted several international travelers, including the Portuguese Francisco Alvarez, the Scottish James Bruce, and the British Henry Salt, who visited Yeha in the 16th, 18th and 19th centuries respectively.
Just an amazing thing to see how old it is. The structure of the temple was just incredible, with all the beautiful huge stones and no cement. Come to Ethiopia because it's a beautiful country, and the ancient places are very well worth seeing, and the people are beautiful.
Very close to Yeha, the site of the Battle of Adwa can be visited without the need for much walking. It was right here in the cleavage of these dramatic mountains, the teeth of Adwa, where the fate of our nation was decided in 1896. Here the ill-equipped and ill-trained Ethiopian militias, drawn from all over the country, delivered a stunning rebuff to the colonial ambitions of Italy and triumphed over an invading modern Western army. Today, Adwa remains a symbol of resistance that preserved the independence of this ancient country. A milestone in African history, the glorious victory of Adwa also inspired the black people around the world to stand up and fight for their freedom. Medhane Alam Church is one of Adwa's remarkable places of Christian worship. It is rich in its wealth of treasures, wall paintings and parchment manuscripts. The entire neighborhood where the church is located is named after the church, and it is customary for the residents of the neighborhood to identify themselves as the sons or daughters of Enda Medhane Alam. Dedicated to one of the 9 saints, the Church of Abba Garima has both religious and historical significance. As a site of one of the earliest churches in Ethiopia, its role in spreading Christianity to the rest of the country was enormous. The illustrated 6th century Gospel, the only one of its kind, is one of the most notable treasures of the church. Less than 5 kilometers southeast of the Battle of Adwa, the church has gained additional significance for being the burial place of Ras Alula Abanega, the famous Ethiopian military commander who defeated the invading Italian army. Built in the 6th century by King Gebre Meskel, Debre Damo is the country's most famous monastery. Best known for its Christian scholarship, remote location and rich collection of ecclesiastical treasures, the monastery of Debre Damo stands out as a site of totally genuine, authentic monastic life. Young monks from all corners of the country flock to Debre Damo in pursuit of Christian learning. Even today, the monastery is viewed as the Harvard of Christian scholarship. Isolated from the world and surrounded by sheer cliffs, the monastery is situated on a very high plateau. The church can only be accessed by this 15-meter plaited rope, which is hanging down from the top of the cliff. Inexperienced visitors need to tie the additional rope provided by the church around their waists and climb up the rough cliff.
There is like a monastery, many monks, there are 2 churches. Something that I found interesting is how they collect water, because there is no springs on top of this, so they have huge basins, so this looks very nice. And there is what looks like a village. It is surprising to see that on top of the hill.
According to oral tradition, the rope symbolizes the serpent that was commanded by God to safely convey the founder of the monastery to the top of the mountain. An estimated 300 monks and their students live here in these stone and mud monastic dwellings, or hidmos, a common style of construction in rural Tigray. Indeed, Debre Damo has become a synonym for monasticism in Ethiopia. According to the renowned Ethiopianist Richard Pankhurst, Debre Damo takes today's traveller into a past age and leaves him with a deeper understanding of Ethiopia's age-old and unique civilization than mere words can give. Its founder, Abuna Aragawi, one of the 9 saints, is believed to have vanished up to heaven from the holy site where he was teaching. One of the best-known rock-hewn churches in central Tigray is Mariam Ukro. Domes, double arches, an unsupported median pendant, Large freestanding columns and their bracket capitals are among the most important features of this church. Unique in several aspects, Maria Mukro is architecturally in a class of its own. Tembian is located in south-central Tigray. With its range of mountains, deep gorges and flowing rivers, Tembian provides many examples of the striking natural beauty for which Tigray is rightly proud. It also houses the region's only hydropower dam and the man-made lake upstream. The Mekele Abi Adi Adwa is the traveller through a scenic terrain. One could take a short detour from the road to visit some of the rock-hewn churches in the area. Abba Yohane is perhaps the most famous rock-hewn church in Tembian. Carved out of a sharp rocky cliff, the church has several columns, domes and arches. It is believed to have been built in the 14th century. Gabriel Wukian and Tekla Haimanot Temba are among other notable heritage sites in Tembian. What is also special about Tembian is its unique dance known as Auris. Unlike the main Tigrinya dancing, which involves slow step-by-step rhythmic walking accompanied by shaking of the shoulders, Auris is a dance of couples for men and women and involves relatively fast jumping up and sideways movements. Tembian is also the birthplace of several brave African heroes that fought to defend the independence of our nation. Emperor Johannes IV on various occasions repelled the aggression of, among others, the Egyptians and Turks. Ras Alula, perhaps the most famous African military commander of all time, was also born here. Visitors to Tembian can stay at the recently inaugurated Mailomin Lodge. Tigray is home to more than 120 rock-hewn churches. These churches are scattered all over Tigray, from Gera Alta to Tembian, from Atsbi to Hausien. The majority of the churches are, however, concentrated in Gera Alta, a mountainous region known for its matchless natural beauty, a combination of mountain ranges and expansive flatland. The most famous churches in the Gera Alta cluster include Debre Zion, or Abuna Abraham, and Abuna Yamata Guh. These two churches have several common characteristics, especially their long-kept and well-preserved murals showing biblical figures. In terms of its location, perhaps Guh is the most difficult to access. Carved out of a perpendicular cliff, the church can only be accessed by using the natural hand grips and footholds. The church is known for its wall paintings. In particular, its ceiling is decorated with paintings depicting the apostles.
Well, it's quite a steep climb to the church, but it's very beautiful. Like, the landscape is very beautiful, and the people that helped us were very kind. And like, there's a very steep climb up a flat wall, but like, the people helped us and they were very nice.
You know, quite a challenge, a few climbing moments, and it's quite fun. Fortunately, I had an amazing guide. And then when you get there, it's just, I don't understand. How did they build it? What did they do with the materials they excavated? And it's just fantastic. I've visited lots of churches in Ethiopia, and that's far from the most beautiful church. It's just amazing.
With a total area of more than 40 square meters, the Church of Debrecen is perhaps one of the largest rock churches in the Gara-Alta cluster. But what fascinates most visitors are its wall paintings and its ceremonial fan, on which figures of saints are painted. Essentially a parchment painting, the circular wood-framed fan has nearly 36 panels, each showing different figures.
I'm very impressed. I'm not used to see church carved directly into the rock, so it's very impressive. The paintings are very beautiful also, the color, everything is very nice to see.
The Gara-Alta Lodge in Hausien serves as a base to explore the churches. With all its amenities and comfort, it has become an essential factor in the packaging of Gara-Alta as an exotic tourist destination. In addition to being the home of one of the beautiful rock churches, the town of Wukro is a departure point for visiting some of Tigray's wonderful attractions. Only half an hour's drive from Wukro, Abraha Atzbaha is located in one of the most scenic sites of the region. Considered among the country's earliest churches, Abraha Atzbaha Church is known for its extraordinary interior decoration, as well as its magnificent murals. Its ceiling is decorated with sophisticated patterns, and its walls are dotted by carved crosses. More than a dozen enormous columns divide the interior of the church into several bays and aisles. Without doubt, Abraha Atzbaha, as a rock church, is an architectural masterpiece. Architecturally, it is said to be Tigray's finest. According to local tradition, the church was constructed in the 4th century, but some scholars estimate its date of construction to be the 10th century. What is certain is that it was built well before the famous rock churches at Lalibela, where the level of sophistication of rock architecture reached its peak. Located to the north of Wukro, Medhane Alam Adik Esho is one of the rock churches in Sada Amba. Like most rock churches of Tigray, its exterior lacks the decoration, style and finishing touches of its interior. Style and finishing touches of its interior, on which a huge amount of time and effort was invested to beautify its walls, ceilings and pillars with symmetrical patterns, crosses and bas-relief. The size of the edifice and the height of its ceiling makes it one of the most graceful rock churches in Tigray. One of the least known histories in Ethiopia is the contribution Tigray made to the protection of Islam in the early stages of its development. History has it that after escaping persecution from the mercantile rulers of Mecca, the first group of Prophet Muhammad's followers sought refuge in Ethiopia, described by the Prophet as the kingdom of a righteous king where no one is wronged. It was at Nagash, 11 kilometers north of Wukro, where most of the Prophet's co-religionists stayed and were eventually buried. Nagash is the Islamic world's second holiest city, only preceded by Mecca. Because of the asylum afforded to his followers, the Prophet Muhammad exempted Ethiopia from jihad, the Islamic holy war. Mikael Emba is one of the churches in the Aspi area. With an interior area of 140 square meters, The church is perhaps the most spacious of all the rock churches in Tigray. The height of its ceiling, which is roughly 6 meters, is also among the highest, if not the highest, of the rock churches in Tigray. Its pillars are graced with stepped capitals, and its ceiling is meticulously decorated with intricate patterns and a large Greek cross incised in relief. In terms of decoration and finishing, the church is second to none. According to Dr. Twalder Medhin Yosef, the pioneer in the study of the rock churches of Tigray, Mikhail Emba is an artistically finished church. East of Wukro, Debre Salam Mikhail is another unique church in the Aspi area. A church within a church, Debre Salam Mikhail is one of the finest in terms of its architectural beauty. It is a half masonry and half rock-hewn church. While its sides and ceiling are carved out of the native rock, the facade is made of stone and wood. The wooden doors and windows display beautiful decorative designs, including a looped cross and a Greek cross in carving. Although they are located along the salt route to the Afar Depression, these churches remained undiscovered up until the mid-19th century. The salt miners had been oblivious of the existence of these churches. Incidentally, Atspi is the highest point from where the downhill descent to the Afar Depression begins. It is a transit point and resting place for salt miners who travel to the area from as far afield as southern Tigray. Traditionally referred to as Arho, the salt quarry is a source of income for many farmers. One of the world's most arduous journeys imaginable, across a very harsh environment, the journey to Arho has been also a rite of passage for Tigrayan farmers in proving their hardiness and manliness. During the off-farm season, it is exciting to see long caravans of camels, mules and donkeys travel to Arho. Located in the southwestern outskirts of the town of Wukro, Adi Akawa is a recently discovered archaeological site. The discovery of the site has created much excitement and interest among archaeologists. German and Ethiopian archaeologists have discovered a number of objects, including a statue of a seated woman, an altar with a Sabaean inscription on it, and a partially inscribed podium. A translation of the inscription has already been made by Professor Norbert Nebis of Vienna University, Germany. To the surprise of the archaeologists, the inscription mentions the pre-Aksumite Da'amat kingdom and the temple of Yeha. From the evidence assembled, the site is tentatively dated back to the 7th or 6th century before the birth of Christ. Mekelle is the oldest of all the capitals of Ethiopia's present-day states. Local scholars trace Mekelle's founding to the 13th century. It was the country's capital during the reign of Emperor Johannes IV in the 19th century, and his palace still dominates the city today. Grand in size, majestic in its architectural design, the palace is the city's main attraction. It also serves as the city's ethnographic museum, where one can see, among other things, the emperor's throne, royal beds, items of clothing and rifles.
The museum is very nice. You can see a lot of things here, not also things which were connected to Johannes IV, but also different things which are important for Ethiopia, like many crosses or religion things.
Of similar architecture, but of a much more recent date, is the Abraha Castle Hotel. Medieval in style, it is built on what is believed to be an artificial hill. One could also visit the Hawelti, or monuments, at the western side of the city. A war memorial, the Hawelti represents a 17-year struggle of the people of Tigray against the dictatorial military junta that ruled the country with an iron fist. Various types of armaments used during the early stages of the war, photographs and historical documents are on display in the museum beneath the monument. The Hawalti also includes a world-class conference center with state-of-the-art facilities. The Hawalti is the city's main landmark. Mekelle is not only northern Ethiopia's political, administrative, cultural and business capital, it is also one of the country's most beautiful cities. It is accessible by road and air from Addis Ababa. Its international airport has all the facilities and amenities to accommodate the latest modern aircraft. Seated in the middle of the valley at the foothills of the famous mountain Imba Aradom, another battleground in the war against colonial aggression, Jelekot is a tiny village of enormous historical heritage. Known for its ecclesiastical and royal treasures, Jelekot Selassie is the church from which the village's significance springs. Believed to have been built in the late 18th or early 19th century, the church is famous for its amazing paintings, manuscripts and church treasures. It is also a repository of several artifacts donated by different kings and international travelers. Notable among them is the gilt tankard the 19th century traveler Henry Salt donated to Ras Wolde Selassie of Tigray. Another British traveller, Nathaniel Pierce, lived in Jelekot for 9 years before writing his book, Travels and Adventures in Abyssinia. Jelekot Selassie is also the site where the wife of famous king, Emperor Tedros, was buried. Itege, or Empress Torunesh, died shortly after the emperor committed suicide, refusing to surrender to the British Army. Raya and Azabo provides Tigray what Bakersfield offers California. The spectacular mountains overlooking the fertile lowlands have witnessed many famous episodes in the making of the nation's history. During their brief occupation from 1936 to 41, the Italian fascists committed untold atrocities against innocent Ethiopians, and Maicho, the main town in the area, was one of the centers of resistance. As has always been the case, many Ethiopians paid the ultimate price to preserve the independence of this ancient nation. At every twist and turn on these roads lie the bones of Ethiopia's freedom fighters who died to keep the torch of freedom burning. With an elevation of more than 10,000 feet or 4,000 meters above sea level, this is Tigray's highest point, Tibet. Ideal for gliding, trekking, bird watching and sightseeing, the Raya Azabo is a beautiful place of unparalleled landscapes. Lake Hashenge, Tigray's only lake, is to be found at the foot of these amazing mountains. Known for their romantic and generous lifestyle, the people of Raya Azabo are rich in their cultural heritage, notably their heartwarming style of music, the Mali.